Hi guys, happy Thursday. Welcome to MMA Live at 5 with Mike on the mic on Fights with Friends. How's everybody doing? You got to check out my interview earlier with Marcus, the Irish Hand Grenade Davis. It was a great interview, great guy. Went into a lot of stuff. I had a few surprising comments for me on a few things. Talking about how much weight he cut, different things that it did to his body. What's up, RS? How's it going? I seen you on that interview earlier at 10 a.m. in the morning here Pacific. It was at 1 p.m. his time. That's why I couldn't do it at a better time for everybody here. But he did it in between training sessions. Dude's a very busy guy. I'm doing good, Danslaus. How are you, man? So, yeah, I would definitely check that out, though. He was nice enough to give us about an hour of his time, and true legend of the sport. He was really the first guy that came over from professional boxing and really made a go of it in the UFC. Where the UFC was just bridging that gap, that time where, you had all these guys with one skill and people were just starting to become full mixed martial arts fighters. Stewie Motherfucker Griffin, how's it going, man? Even if he's going to continue to call me names, I don't know. I'm doing great, man. How's it going, Comedic Genius? What's up, Zeke? Everybody's coming in the house. You guys all need to watch that interview earlier that I recorded. If you haven't watched it yet with Marcus Davis, I had him live at 10 a.m. this morning. Just because that's when he was available on his time. Let's get into this. Did you guys see it's International Women's Day, of course. Not a whole lot of women in here, but Amanda Nunes did have a fight announced. Rainy day in Vancouver, Canada. It's always a rainy day here, dude. Adam Turner. What's up, Adam? So I was just saying on International Women's Day, Amanda Nunes gets a fight. It's not the fight maybe everybody was looking for, though. For some reason, Cyborg fought the Burger King manager at the last UFC. We didn't end up getting that one. A Comedic Genius is cold as balls in Chicago. I can only imagine, dude. Amanda Nunes is going to be fighting Raquel Pennington at UFC 224. Raquel Pennington coming off a 4-fight win streak. Of course, the last time she fought, she retired Misha Tate. So maybe it's her turn. Stewie Griffin, today is MMA Hole's birthday. That's great. Like, really? That's pretty funny. Actually, the 1-year anniversary, I had the channel up, but the 1-year anniversary of the first video I posted will be March 18th. So I'm going to put together a highlight video of some different things throughout the years, but a lot of it's just going to be your guys' comments, your guys' conversations, things like that. MMA new updates. What's up, Cap? How's it going, man? I said MMA new updates. Amanda Nunes to fight Raquel Pennington. Bellator continues to sign a bunch of old people. I have not seen anything new about John Jones, but of course he went through the California State Athletic Commission thing. They suspended him of his title. The USADA thing keeps getting pushed back. I'm going to stop on John Jones for just a minute. So he put everybody in limbo for like 5-6 freaking months after the Daniel Cormier fight, and said, I want to appeal this, I want to appeal this, we need more time to get more information and all these things. So he doesn't get more information. They're still putting off the USADA hearing. That's coming soon. He expects to, if he gets any suspension, to get time served. I call bullshit. I say that if he doesn't bring anything new to the table and he's just been wasting our time this whole time, the 6 months, don't give him time served. Whenever the suspension starts now. But anything new about Mighty Mouse and TJ? I haven't heard a whole lot else. Cap says your camera broke or something. No, that's some remodeling here in the house behind me, some different things going, so I'm just using the screen capture right now. Stewie says, I'm high as F walking around the kitchen. That's great. What do I think of Derek Campos? I think he needs a bigger fight, and maybe, you know, the UFC is calling. Did he get called up? I don't know. I know he just defended his belt. Adam says that makes two of us, too. You beautiful little mofo. Well, we are in the green state here, so with St. Patrick's Day coming, what better way to celebrate the green would it be than to finally legalize marijuana for fighters? Jesus Christ. We saw Nick Diaz, of course, get a 5-year suspension in the past. Kelvin Gastelum's fight with Anderson Silva was canceled at 212. UFC strawweight Cynthia Calvillo just accepted a 6-month marijuana suspension. That's the sticky green talk this evening. Can we be done with the reefer madness as far as suspensions in the UFC? This is freaking ridiculous. I mean, you're going to call all these guys a bunch of PEDs, you know, what, it makes you want to eat? What is this, like the Scooby-Doo fighting championship? I'm going to have Shaggy come in high on weed and go full Super Saiyan. It's about time to be done. Stewie, just weed. Cap says, your Seahawks getting rid of 2 of the best players in the NFL. Yeah, they're in a little bit of a retooling stage right now. I'm not real happy about it, Cap. But honestly, Michael Bennett was kind of a distraction in the locker room. And Richard Sherman's coming off 2 big injuries. He didn't sign with anyone else. He was in the last year of his contract. So hopefully we're able to pick him up for cheaper, because after those the ACL, I believe 2 ACL tears now, $15 million, between $11 and $15 million would have been a pretty big hit on the cap, and they were able to save almost all that. So it's a smart move, but it sucks. Tramadol, says Adam Turner. What's up with 135, comedic genius? I don't know. What is up with 135? Oh, Amanda Nunes fighting Raquel Pennington. Oh, man. Yeah, why isn't the Cyborg fight happening? I don't know. But Raquel Pennington's on a 4-fight win streak. Of course, she hasn't fought since she retired Miesha Tate. But we all thought Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes was coming up the last fight. That doesn't happen. Then you got UFC 224 in Brazil. You think, okay, this is the greatest time for this. You got the 2 Brazilian champions in Brazil. Why not have this at UFC 224? And then you have Raquel the Bookworm Pennington jumping in at UFC 224. She's beaten some names out there. Like I said, she retired Miesha Tate. She's got a victory over Jessica Andrade, but she's 9-5. She was 5-5 before her 4-fight winning streak, and she's 9-5. So I just don't see her being title ready. Definitely not worthy of canceling Cyborg versus Nunes. So that's a bit troubling. Did you see Conor McGregor? And I won't bring him up for too long, sorry, but did you see his embarrassing Burger King commercial? Could it be more ridiculous? Cap says they're talking about Till versus RDA, so if that happens, who fights T-Wood in July? I seen that, and I was a little confused. I seen that Darren Till called Rafael Dos Anjos out, I thought Rafael dos Anjos fight with Tyron Woodley was pretty much a set thing. Darren Till said Tyron Woodley doesn't want to fight. That's news to me. I know he'd had some back and forth with Dana. They'd had, different stories when it came to the Nate Diaz fight. But he said he wanted to squash all that and move forward with his career, which I thought was a good move. Now all of a sudden you have Darren Till saying that T Wood's not fighting and he wants RDA. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Hopefully it's setting up a T Wood fight with a Diaz brother, and I don't care which Diaz brother it is. It'd be great for T Wood. It'd be great for the sport. It wouldn't exactly be great for saying that you have to earn a title shot. So there's that. On the DC versus Stipe card, I mean, it's a great fight. It is a great fight. I think Darren Till beats RDA. Honestly, I think RDA is kind of on the way down. I mean, he looked okay against Lawler. Lawler had some injuries. Lawler's getting older himself. I think Darren Till probably knocks him out. So RS says, I love it. It's a funny commercial. I thought he was going to fight Gunnar Nelson. That T Wood was going to fight Gunnar. I don't think Gunner's earned a title shot anytime soon. Gunner, RS, are you saying you thought Till was going to fight Gunner? I'm sorry. That would be a good fight. But I think it was just today I seen that he was calling RDA out. So I'm not sure what that's all about. Who do I have? Mayweather versus CM Punk. How about I have we all lose if that fight happens? That could not be a more ridiculous fight. Jesus. I'd rather see Conor McGregor versus Deontay Wilder and just get the sideshow over with. No. Not sure why I would do that, Adam. Eat these burgers for... Oh, I got you. If I do have to eat fast food, though, I will say it's Burger King. If I'm going to have a fast food burger, not McDonald's, Carl's Jr., Burger King's decent. I'll stop for a Whopper every once in a while. It's not a bad look for the UFC. But, when Roy Nelson was up on the top of the cage rubbing his belly, endorsing Burger King, Dana didn't care for it so much. That looks more like your Burger King body than Conor McGregor. Mayweather CM Punk has to be better than Kimbo Dada. You agree? I agree with that, man. But we're not Bellator. What's going on here? I don't know. Beginner trading. Who's Nunes? What's up, beginner trading? Nunes will not be fighting Cyborg, unfortunately, at UFC 224. She will instead be fighting Raquel Pennington in Brazil. The UFC says they really want to see the fight between Amanda Nunes and Cyborg. They both want it, but Raquel's got a mandatory title shot. Since when has the UFC been pushing mandatory title shots? For the last 3 years. I mean, Conor McNobelt's held on to those things for how long? I don't know, a long time. So saying that she has to defend her title, I don't know what's going on there. That's pretty weird, though. Bellator is the elderly retirement center. For sure, man. What's up, beginner trading? Yeah, for sure. I seen that they just signed Mirko Cro Cop out of retirement. He won the Ryzen FC tournament in 2016. Then he had one supposed final retirement bout this last year. I think it was in December, just in December. And that was a quick retirement. All of a sudden, he's in Bellator, and he's going to be fighting Roy Nelson right away. I don't know when that is. It is an interesting fight. I mean, those guys are definitely going to bang. For sure. What's up, Bailey? Not sure what's not nice there, man, but... Adam, I meant Connor's girlfriend. I did not hear anything. Oh, Raquel Pennington, Connor's girlfriend. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if she's his style. I think maybe Cyborg's more his style. But, yeah, you got Mirko Cro Cop coming to Bellator. I'm not sure. It's like WWE and WCW back in the day. It's starting to remind me of that. And I don't want to compare it too much to professional wrestling, but it's kind of starting to look like professional wrestling. When WCW started signing Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan and all these big wrestlers after their heyday, you know, when they were in their mid-50s. So that was very interesting. And then now they're talking about, they're looking at signing Chuck. Coker's talking about how they would promote a Chuck Liddell versus Tito Ortiz fight. And talk about a backstabber. If Tito Ortiz wanted to go out on a low note, though, after everything Scott Coker did for him, brought him back, several money fights, retirement fight, all that, he starts talking. Chuck Liddell, he gets Chuck Liddell baited and says, you know, maybe I'll come out of retirement for this, 48 freaking years old. And Tito says, well, if it's not in the UFC, I don't want it. After everything Scott Coker did for you, you're not going to give him that fight. How stupid can you be, Tito? How many times did you get hit in the head? And we all know he's got a lot bigger head than he used to. So I don't know if it's from getting the head too many times or how much juicing he's done or what it is. But why are you going to insult the boss of the only federation that's going to make that fight? Do you really think the UFC is going to sanction a fight between 48-year-old Chuck Liddell and 43-year-old Tito Ortiz? Dana retired Chuck like 6 years ago. He says, I love you, man. I don't want to see you in the cage anymore. I don't want to see you get hurt. They gave him an executive position at the time. So that was just really weird to me. I don't know if Tito is trying to springboard this into, you know, a movie career or what it is. But once again, probably like when they were on The Ultimate Fighter, he probably really has no intent of fighting Chuck, but he's trying to keep his name relevant. RS says, let's talk about what's really important. When are they going to allow Ryan Bader to give a whooping on John Jones? I don't think John Jones is coming back to 205. If you get Mike to cuss on video, it's saved forever, says Bailey. Yes, it's all saved forever. Bader would get stomped, I'm sorry, says Beginner Trading. I absolutely agree. If Jones can ever pass a drug test and get a fight. RS, Bader is on a different level right now. He looks like a beast on his last fights. Cap says, you doing the Mikey Garcia versus Sergey Lipnitz fight? It's on Showtime Saturday. What did you guys think of that Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ramirez? Did everybody in here watch that fight or listen to that? That was a great fight. I'd love to do another boxing event on Saturday if there's interest in it, Cap. If you guys want to see more boxing, I got to study up a little bit on Sergey. I know Mikey Garcia pretty good. I've seen a little bit of Sergey's fight, but who do you think wins that, Cap? RS says, yeah, Mike, you have to do more boxing. Well, RS has spoke. Mikey Garcia, top pound for pound. Yeah, he's a great fight. Jones, what's up, Jones? He says, yeah. Cap says, Mikey wins. All right, I think we do boxing on Saturday then. You guys got it. Talking about 205, you know, John Jones and Ryan Bader or whatever. Luke Rockhold says he can't make the cut to 205 anymore. Of course, he's been talking back and forth with Alexander Gustafsson, but he had to call out Michael Bisping in a retirement fight here recently. He says he can't make the 185 cut anymore because as you get older, your bones expand. Well, that's because you hold so much extra weight. Part of that's an age thing, yes, but when you gain a lot of weight, your body, the density in your bones thickens. The calcium thickens to support all the extra weight. So if you're walking around at 205, yes, your bones, or excuse me, if you're walking around at 250 or 220, whatever he's walking around at, and dropping down to 185, yeah, your bones are going to expand to hold that extra weight, and then maybe make it harder as you go down. So, but he says if he loses a rematch against Michael Bisping, it will also be his retirement bout. I got to agree with him there. If he loses to Bisping again, he should retire. But I think Luke Rockhold does look a lot better at 205. I think he would walk through Michael Bisping. I don't know why Michael Bisping would want that as his retirement fight. I mean, it's great if he wins, but I don't think he does. And then, yeah, Rockhold and Gustafsson, I think that's a legit fight. For sure. Natal Vatino says Diaz, Conor McGregor 3. That's honestly the fight that I'm interested in seeing. Everyone wants to talk about who Conor McGregor needs to fight. Well, he's been officially stripped of his belt for a while. We've all known for a long time he wasn't going to defend it. So that's the big fight. Why not see him against Nate Diaz? But man, what an opportunity he missed this year with St. Patrick's Day being on Saturday. Did you guys all realize that St. Patrick's Day, I believe, is on Saturday? I mean, you got St. Patrick's Day on Saturday. You got Cinco de Mayo on Saturday. What greater week for fights? And now it looks like we might not be having either. Not only is Conor McGregor not fighting, did you guys see Triple G and Canelo Alvarez is off? Canelo Alvarez got popped for PEDs. They're saying unless he can explain something in his supplements, and boxing's a little shadier on their testing than MMA, so maybe it happens. But wow, people just lost a lot of money, and there's going to be a lot of pissed off Mexicans. I was planning on going to a fiesta, drinking a bunch of Corona, and watching Triple G and Alvarez beat the shit out of each other, but Beginning Trader says, yeah, that's either A, because you saw it as not in Bellator, B, is fighting weaker opponents in Bellator, so thus will obviously look better, for sure. Cap says, I think Gustafsson F's Rockhold up. If he looks like he has in the past, yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, Alexander Gustafsson has really, he's never been dominated in a fight, unless you want to go to the Anthony Rumble Johnson fight, who's retired, of course. A lot of people say he wins that fight against John Jones. Obviously, it was super close. Same thing with Daniel Cormier. So, I mean, with those guys out of the picture, Alexander Gustafsson's by far the top 205er. RS says Gustafsson is moving up. I hope not. RS says because you were seriously underrating the legend himself, Ryan Bader. Well, we'll see if Ryan Bader can get through the senior citizen circuit over a Bellator before he tries to take on anybody in the UFC again. I'm not so sure he gets through that tournament. What do I think about Kevin Lee versus Barbosa? I think we win as fans. I think that's an awesome freaking fight. It's a big risk for Kevin Lee. He could be one fight away, you know, with Khabib and Tony Ferguson, depending on who wins that fight. I mean, Kevin Lee could be sitting in the driver's seat for the first shot of that. He loses to Edson Barbosa. And then you're looking at a situation like we have with Brian Ortega and Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar takes, you know, a payday for $200,000. He wants to stay busy, jumps in there with a young buck, and you guys seen what happened on Saturday. Frankie Edgar got KTFO'd for the first time in his life, and now Brian Ortega is going to be fighting Max Holloway. And that's a great fight. Adam says Kevin Lee for me. That being said, I think Kevin Lee probably does win the fight, but it's a super dangerous fight, and good for him for stepping up, though. I mean, good for him for stepping up. He's not in the same position as Frankie because he doesn't have a title shot right now, so he does kind of need a win. You can't really put him in there coming off of a loss. So I'll give you that. Native Latino says St. Patty's Day, time to smoke weed to get drunk. Kevin Lee will dump him the whole fight, says RS. I agree, probably. Cap says I was on PS4 with Max Griffin earlier. Cap, damn it, you're on PS4? My brother-in-law just got me Xbox One. I'm looking at getting that UFC 3 fight, although I've seen horrible ratings on it. Are you playing on UFC 3, Cap, or are you still playing on 2? I've heard a lot of people say they're playing on 2 because UFC 3 has so many gaps in it right now. I've seen they already came out with the first patch for it. Beginning trader RS, I can't tell if you're being sarcastic. Bader is good and everything, but he is a gatekeeper, not top tier. Yeah, I think RS is trolling a little bit. Mikey, get an interview with Mike Perry's ex. You're welcome. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. That was ridiculous. Mike Perry, what is it? Max Griffin not only comes in and steals the fight, but steals his girlfriend. Oh, man. And I'm probably not going to have Mike Perry on the show anytime after that comment. Although I have reached out to him. He is on my list of interviews coming up. My shows, as you see, is kind of going to be like the post-senior citizen circuit. After guys are too old to even fight in Bellator, then they come on my show and interview. Shoney Carter, Luke Kumo, and then Marcus Davis this week. But no, I thought, if you guys haven't watched the Marcus Davis interview, I found him highly entertaining. He had some great stories. He said he would come back for one fight against Phil Baroni, but obviously those guys are, pretty old, so I'd like to see him more in the grappling kind of thing. Beginning Trader says, Gus better than Rockhold all day. I agree. I agree Gus takes that fight, but I also think it's a good fight. I think Rockhold has to go up to 205 or retire. Kevin lost his last fight, Beginner Trainer said. Yes, Edson Barbosa is a dangerous dude, though. That is crazy. What do you think about Mikey Garcia versus Sergey Lipinets boxing? I don't know a lot about Sergey. I've watched a few of his fights. I know Mikey Garcia's won the top pound for pound, as Cap said. I have Mikey Garcia in that one. I'm going to do a little more studying. If you guys have more information for me, throw it out there right now, and I'll look it up more. But Beginner Trainer says Edgar Ortega was making me respect both fighters a ton more. Frankie because he put it on the line, showing a true fighter spirit. Ortega obviously for finishing the legend for the first time. Yeah, guy's never been finished in his life. I actually picked Frankie in the UFC pick him just because of that. I mean, I'm thinking Ortega's not going to win a decision, and nobody's going to finish Frankie, and man, was I wrong. That was craziness. Beginner Trader says, UFC 3 is so much fun. I top 100 in the U.S. Nice. Cap says, UFC 3 ain't bad. Career mode and Ultimate Team is good. It looks like they really added a lot to the depth of the career mode. I see you have to fight through the WFA, which is a blast from the past. That's awesome. I'm still going to get it. I'm still on UFC 1. I got the UFC 1, but I'll get UFC 3 probably this week. I just wish I was on PS4 or that we could, they had that cross thing figured out. They would have done the Xbox One versus PS4, but I don't think PlayStation wants to do that. So, Ortega versus Max Holloway, says Native. That's going to be an incredible fight, and I've heard them talking about July already, which seems pretty quickly for Max Holloway coming off a broken bone in his foot. But we'll see. That would be a great 4th of July week card. RS Ortega was double the size of Edgar. I don't know what happened there. Frankie's never cut a lot of weight. Frankie just never looks like the bigger guy. I mean, he always looks smaller. I think he could still make 135. I think he's got the bone structure of 135 or still. Cap says, beginner trader, I'm top 12 in USA. You're top 12 in the country, Cap? Damn. That almost makes me glad I don't have a PS4, so you're not whooping my ass. But I want to play with you, though, so maybe I get both eventually. Comedic Genius says, I mean, she can technically put head coach on her resume. We talking about Mike Perry's girlfriend? Yeah. Mike following the Bellator style. Good idea. Older people are cheaper. I like it, RS. Yeah, and a lot of these guys have been more than willing to step up. But MMA Junkie, they had George Gurgel this week, who Marcus Davis was talking about, that trained him, got him ready, for jiu-jitsu in the sport, to transition from a boxer over to a true MMA guy, and got him in there training jiu-jitsu every day. So they're having a lot of the same kind of fighters right now. So that's a good show too. I have one issue with MMA Junkie, and I have with a few other shows, as I say in a show where I just absolutely ramble. But a lot of those guys cut fighters off. They put them on there for 10, 15 minutes, and then they talk on there with some co-host about the pretty girl they met at the coffee shop this week, or just, some weird random stuff. Let the fighters continue to talk. Joe Rogan, that's why he's so successful. But I got the idea to let Luke Kumo really talk when I seen an interview that he'd had a few years back. When he was on there, he was on the show, I think, for about 8-10 minutes. And they told him, hey, we're out of time. We're going to go to something else. And they just cut to toilet humor. And I thought it was super disrespectful to a legend of the sport. It's MMA. So have the fighters talk. Beginner trainer, you on Xbox, Cap? Nope, he's on PS4. If so, we probably already fought. I'm in Division 5. Well, beginner trainer, I will look for you, man. I got to get my Xbox Live set up this week, but let me know what your gaming tag is, and I'll be posting some fights from the UFC 3, too, once I get that all set up. Cap says, I'm Division 7, almost Division 8. Yeah, I'd get killed in those divisions, Cap. Best UFC game was UFC Undisputed 3 for Xbox 360. That was an incredible game. Yes, why don't they all have Pride mode? I mean, it's a video game, so you're not worried about the rights of digital fighters. So why are we not allowed to kick fighters in the head on the ground and stomp on them Vanderlei Silva style? I don't get that. I mean, I guess they're trying to market the UFC as it is now, but come on, at least bring the option back to fight prize world. Maybe you can fight both. And I think that's the way it was on UFC Undisputed 3. That game, UFC Undisputed 2 and 3 were absolutely phenomenal games. I did play a lot of those. Jason says the mechanics were better. I've heard some bad things about the mechanics on UFC 3. But like I said, I haven't played it yet, so we'll have to play it myself. I want another Fight Night game, says Cap. I heard there's a rumor that there will be a new Fight Night game. 2018 Fight Night 3 was awesome. The last Fight Night on PS3 and Xbox 360, the story mode was great. I liked it a lot. It was kind of like a movie thing where the fighter goes to jail. He has to fight his way out of that. It was a really cool story mode. So, trading anyways, guys. I'm out. Good chatting with you. Good chatting with you, beginning trader. Have a good one, man. What's up, Red Hat? How's it going, man? Any events this weekend? The boxing match. Mikey Garcia versus Sergey Lipinets. So, as far as MMA, doesn't look like anything real big. But, of course, we got a lot of bouts coming forth, but we're really looking forward to that April 7th match. Tony Ferguson, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and then JoJo and Thug Rose 2. That'll be awesome. Jason says it did have pride rules on UFC Undisputed 3 and a lot of old school pride fighters. Yeah, it did. That was awesome. I mean MMA. No, not a whole lot going on MMA. Have you guys seen a lot of guys coming out of Bama? Bama FC, MMA organization. Their championship fight, their next championship fight, they're basically saying that's a fight. Whoever wins it goes to the UFC. So they got a lot of fighters coming. Basically, when they win the belt, they're going to Bellator or the UFC. So maybe that's even something that I start following. That Garcia fight is going to be awesome, says Natives. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to have to watch some Sergey Lipinets. But I hope it's a really good fight. If you guys didn't take your Showtime 7-day trial last week with Deontay Wilder, of course, go on and you can get a 7-day trial. Or it's like $12 a month. I went ahead and signed up for it. I'm signed up for HBO, which they have, they always have some good fights coming. Although Showtime seems to have it right now, at least with the heavyweights. RS, have you heard Brock Lesnar is coming back? I bet he is only fighting on USADA's days off. I seen he took a picture. It was a couple weeks ago. He posted a picture with him and Dana White, and then his manager said that he's ready to fight anytime. Kind of the last I seen was pre the hearing with John Jones, though, with the California State Athletic Commission. I have a feeling that the UFC knows something about that USADA hearing that the rest of us don't. I know California State suspended John Jones's license, but I have a feeling that the UFC and USADA know that John Jones is going to get let off the hook. And possibly here soon, I wouldn't be surprised to see Brock Lesnar and John Jones fight by the end of this year, early next year. Excuse me. Just make new email, Mike, for Showtime free trial. Oh, good thinking, Cap. I'm going to do that this week, actually. I haven't paid for it yet, so good thinking. So, yeah, everybody take Cap's advice. Just use a new email every week, and you can continue to watch every Showtime card. It says Brock Lesnar is a juice head, like 20% of his muscle is juice. Oh, obviously, he's been juiced forever, but WWE doesn't test. And what? He's going to come back. He knows he can come back. He can get in there. He can get one fight, make a ton of money, fail his test again like he did against Mark Hunt. And if he doesn't come back, he's not losing anything. But here's the thing with the fight against Mark Hunt. A lot of people are like, this guy's a repeat offender. Well, he retired pre-USADA. So as far as USADA was concerned, he was like a new fighter. So when he failed that test, I believe he only got a 9-month suspension. He might have gotten a year. It wasn't any more than a year, though. What do you think the chances are of GSP versus McGregor for a 165-pound title? Have you seen GSP lately? He looks very thin. I think it's freaking retarded to give Conor McGregor a shot at another damn title when he hasn't defended his other 2 belts. I did see George St. Pierre, one of his coaches, came out and said that Conor versus GSP was bigger than Conor versus Mayweather. It's not bigger than the first fight. He's kidding himself if he thinks it's bigger than that first fight. It is a big fight. George just said he doesn't expect to fight for the rest of the year. So, and he also said recently that Conor McGregor, just a few days ago, I think, that Conor McGregor doesn't do anything for his legacy. So, if he's smart, and this is what I would do with both these guys, is I don't blame Conor. We all know he's a money whore. But if I was an MMA, I would be the exact same way. So if I'm GSP and Conor, I'm putting little feelers out there. Just keeping it in the news, seeing what the interest is, seeing if you start to build some momentum, if people start to call for the fight, that's when you have a money fight. You know, that's what it is. You wait for the fans to actually ask for it. Mark Hunt is suing the UFC. Nato Latino said he's been suing him for a while, I think. The UFC, actually Zuffa, even though they're no longer with the UFC, now that they have all that money, they're looking at a $1.6 billion lawsuit. Judges decided there's enough evidence for this to go forward. There's a big chance that the UFC has to pay a lot of these fighters for the time basically in between the end of Strikeforce and the beginning of Bellator. UFC is being accused of having an MMA monopoly, not just in the United States, but in North America after buying out Strikeforce. And that really doesn't look good for them. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but Zoof is not off the hook as far as that's concerned. I'm sure they're looking a lot better being that they don't still own the UFC. And then the new owners, they're off the hook. Of course, Dana, with his $900 million, he's still on the hook because I'm not even sure he is because he was a part owner. So I guess he would be. But the Fertitta brothers are definitely could have some issues. Comedic says, hey, Mike, you trying to figure out that dude that Aldo got to train with him to imitate McGregor? I can't think of it either, man. I'm drawing a blank. What do you think about Ronda Rousey joining the WWE? You know what? Good for her. Good for her, man. I mean, she's a good-looking girl, I think, no matter what you think of her. The game had passed her by, though. It's like Gina Carano after she fought Chris Cyborg. Gina Carano could have beat a lot of women, but she was going to be the best fighter out there that wasn't named Chris Cyborg. So she went into the movies, and she made a ton of cash. She's done very well for herself. She's a beautiful woman. Ronda the same. I think it's a mistake. I heard that she's going to go on, the weekly tours and not do just the main events like Brock Lesnar. I think that would be a huge mistake. I say just do 4 or 5 events a year, and then WWE has their own movie studio. Use that to catapult you into more movie roles. That WWE way of making money, that is a hard life. Maybe even harder than UFC. Those guys are getting slammed every single week, no matter what you think of a WWE. Just look at the list of former WWE guys that have died in the last 10 years, and you'll be horrified. A lot of the guys I remember coming up, when wrestling was big in the early 90s, those guys are dead. Ton of them. Macho Man Randy Savage, Roddy Piper, Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig. A lot of them committed suicide. Most of those guys are addicted to painkillers. Cap says, I hope Conor and GSP just stay away. I think that's bad for the sport, Cap. But Conor and McGregor and Mayweather was bad for the sport, I believe. And I think Conor versus GSP is just worse. Jason says, Conor's doing Burger King commercials now. I didn't think it was the greatest commercial. But I'm glad to see the UFC get another sponsor. So hopefully, I want to see them make as much money as possible so we can see as many fights as possible. Diaz is better than McGregor. I beat him twice, says Native Latinos. I thought Diaz won that second fight too. I say just make that fight. Everybody knows that Conor's a money whore. He doesn't care about titles. Put him in there with Nate Diaz. Everybody wants to see Nate Diaz fight. And then Nate Diaz wins the third fight. That sets up a fight. Maybe Nate Diaz fights Tyron Woodley, and Tyron Woodley gets a little piece of, a big money fight or something. I'd like to see that fight as well. RS says 90% of the fighters are just in it for the money. Very few do it for the pure joy of becoming the best in the world. Cap says, F entertainment. I want to see who is the best. I want to see who is the best too. And as a fan, I want to see all the best fights. Like at 155, Khabib Nurmagomedov, that dude is the best 155-pounder in the planet, in my mind, without a doubt. I don't care who he fights at 155, what human, what animal. I think he tears them apart. But UFC has changed since WMA bought it. Well, they're an entertainment company, and they're trying to make money, but they're really struggling to find their way. And so far, I think they're losing. Fox, of course, just sold out to Disney. That deal is not official. The merger will be complete before the end of the year. Very bad timing for the UFC because the Fox deal was up in the air and they're not even close to coming to agreement. But I think it's good to get away from Fox or UFC. I don't think it worked out real well. I think you kind of go somewhere else. But imagine Disney. I don't know that Disney would take UFC under their umbrella. Probably too controversial. But remember, Disney owns ABC and ESPN. So you got the ESPN fights. You could have your fight nights on ESPN. Then you could have really big fights on ABC, just like Fox. And I think ABC and Disney is just a better TV corporation. Fox has their issues. They have issues with times. They say things are going to be on when they're not. I don't think they've done a great job of marketing the UFC. So I think the move to ESPN would be great. Even though WME, like you said, is a talent agency, I think that fits over there well. I think the production will be better in ABC with ESPN, and you don't have to take it under the Disney umbrella. You don't have to say we're part of Disney because ESPN's a separate entity, but they're kind of going to have those resources. So you could really make some superheroes out of those guys, like Stipe Miocic, Daniel Cormier. McGregor wants to go down to 145. I still think Nate Diaz will be in at 145. I agree. Cap says, I want UFC on ESPN or TNT. I'd love to see him on ESPN. TNT is not a bad place either. TNT's got the NBA over there, of course. And I think they market them better. Fox just doesn't seem to have interest in marketing them correctly. I don't know what the issue is. WWE wants to go to Fox. I heard that. I heard that Fox possibly prefers WWE to the UFC. So if that's what they want, let them. I'll be done with those guys. Jason says, Mike, do you think Cyborg's weakness is her takedown defense? That single leg takedown looked weak from UFC 222. It definitely is. It's been a long time, but I was actually watching some old video of the fight with her and Gina Carano from years back because Joe Rogan was talking about it. And Gina actually had her in some bad positions. She was starting on a submission hold, actually, and then Cyborg completely murked her. But, yeah, if you're gonna take Cyborg, the way is going to be to take her down. And Amanda Nunes is the fighter to do that, and I think she's got a real shot against Cyborg. Obviously, nobody wants to stand with that lady. That's suicide. That's absolutely suicide. And I agree with Brennan Schaub, actually, for once. He said on the Joe Rogan show this week on Tuesday, I believe, that Cyborg will not be beaten by one woman. It would take two women or a man. So, I mean, he might be right there. If anybody's going to do it, it's Amanda Nunes. I think maybe that's one of the reasons that they're putting this off, is they want the fight to make the fight bigger. But how much bigger can it be than in Brazil? Maybe it's the next time they come to Brazil. But she's also got slick jiu-jitsu, though. She's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so I don't know that she gets subbed. RS says it might be, Jason. She was very close to a tap. I don't think she was close in that fight to being tapped, but I can't pronounce her name. The opponent for Cyborg this last week, though. But I mean, she did her best. You know, she got 100 G's for jumping in there. How incredible would that be? How crazy would that be that you get the call, hey, we want you to fight in the UFC. You're finally making it up to the big leagues. And your first fight's going to be against the devastating champion that everybody's scared of. Holy crap. For that girl to jump up in that level of competition, especially on short notice as it was too, super short notice. I made fun of her throughout the weeks. Obviously, you know, the odds makers kind of did. They had her like a 12-1 underdog, but I'd like to see her in the future. She's a cute girl. So as far as that, I mean, she's, you know, she's good. She's good to market too. Cap says, hell yeah, that's a quick 100K. Should I, for 100K, I'd jump in there with anybody on 2 weeks' notice. Give me Brock Lesnar, John Jones, what the hell ever. You know, that's what I make in 2 years. So that's a lot of freaking money, and it's fighting. Anything can happen. I mean, you know, what if she does shake up the world? She's an absolute millionaire, darling. I mean, biggest upset in MMA history by far. And talking about women's fighting, what about the controversy with Joey Diaz and Mackenzie Dern? Did you guys see Joey Diaz going at it on Twitter, talking about sniffing Mackenzie Dern's a-hole? And that just got me demonetized, I'm sure. But I like to see more Joey Diaz in MMA. I think that's a win for us. That guy's super entertaining. God, I'd love to see him commentate. Put him in there with Joe Rogan. Just hotbox the stadium. Put him in a room and let him commentate the fight. Just hotbox the crap out of him. And what do you have to lose? I think him and Boss Rutan together would be absolute gold. RS said, women seem to be easier to promote than men. Any pretty girl that fights well is going to be a star. Dudes just want to see chicks fighting. Jason said, I said the same thing Diaz did during the fight. That's the thing, though. I don't think people will pay to see any women fight. The Chris Cyborg fight, of course, against an unnamed opponent. Rumors are that was probably the lowest pay-per-view numbers in 10 years. I called that was going to be a horrible fight for pay-per-view numbers. I said it might be less than 100K. UFC's not going to release those numbers, but basically all the rumors are out of there is that was the worst numbers for a pay-per-view in 10 years. And now UFC 224, it looks like Amanda Nunes is the headliner. Just after Dana White said Amanda Nunes won't headline another fight, she got pulled, of course, from injury with the rematch with Valentina Shevchenko. She pulled out. Now here she is, headlining another fight, UFC 224, against Raquel Pennington. I actually think if they market Raquel Pennington, I actually think that's a fighter that you can get people to buy into. She's got the glasses. She's got kind of, you know, kind of the nerdy girl next door persona. I think that's a marketable fight. I think you do some, you know, some of the UFC promos that they do, the big fight week thing, tour around the country. It's definitely easier to sell than the last Cyborg fight when everybody knew that, you know, this girl didn't have a chance. Raquel Pennington, like I said, she's got wins over Jessica Andrade. She just retired Miesha Tate. Strike while the fire's hot. Don't let her fight again until she gets that title shot and, you know, maybe you have a star in the making. Wouldn't that be horrible for the UFC, though, if Raquel Pennington upsets Amanda Nunes and the Nunes-Cyborg fight is off? Because Raquel Pennington does not match up well against Cyborg at all. Way too small. Way too small. Joey Diaz pronounces UFC fighter's name so funny. Steopik Kalibib. That dude is just super entertaining, Jason. Man, I would love to share a drink with that guy any day. Cap says, problem is the fans. The problem ain't with the product. Oh, absolutely, Cap. I hate casual MMA fans so much. I agree. I also understand that we need those casual MMA fans to get the money in there, to get the big fights. We've been kind of spoiled recently, especially, what was it, like 6 weeks in a row? We had a UFC card, and then some of those weeks we had a UFC and Bellator card. I mean, if it wasn't for that torrid schedule, I would have had a really hard time hitting my 1,000 subscribers to stay monetized. So, yeah, definitely a great time to be an MMA fighter. they just need to market it. They need to market it towards the hardcore fans as well as the casual fans, I would say, Cap. RS says you put Angelina Jolie and Jennifer Lopez in a cage and you get... Let's not see that. I cringe when MMA fans boo if they aren't killing each other. Me too, Jason. It's like it goes to the ground and everybody starts booing. It's like, you know what? Let's not bring the UFC back to this place. He says Brazilian fans are the worst. Brazilian fans are at least educated, but yeah, they only show respect for Brazilian fighters. I do see that. That's your hometown crowd thing, though. You're going to get that in Ireland. You're going to get that in a lot of places. Maybe not quite to that extent, but at least they understand what's going on with the game. One of their fighters takes somebody down to the mat. They understand submissions, and they're cheering instead of booing when it goes to the mat. So, RS says UFC needs to do shows in Japan. MMA was huge in Japan when Pride was there. The fans are still there. They're still there, and they're watching Ryzen. Ryzen is Ryzen over there. Excuse my pun, but it's doing very well in Japan. Unfortunately for American fans, it's always at like 3 in the morning, so it's kind of hard to push that pay-per-view over here. It's hard for me to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, but hey, Dutch guy does it all the time, 2, 3 in the morning to watch fights with us, so maybe I need to bite the bullet and try that one of these days, do the 2 or 3 in the morning broadcast on the Ryzen FC and see how that goes. I just have to work it around my work schedule, which I just had to work a graveyard yesterday after working a 6 to 2:30 the day before, so that was a little brutal. So I could definitely do it for MMA. RS says it's culture in Brazil to boo the opponent of a Brazilian. Yeah, I don't have an issue with it. I think it makes it very interesting. I like that fighters have a place that they can go and they can say, you know, you're fighting on enemy ground. This is a volatile situation. It's almost like a movie. It sells. It's like Ivan Drago and Rocky when they go into Russia. And Brazil was like that in real life. I mean, those are soccer fans. You can't forget, those are hardcore soccer fans. Soccer fans are the biggest hardcore fans on earth. They'll stab you in the parking lot. They'll beat your ass. This is not, I know that stuff can happen in the United States sometimes, but it can happen pretty frequently over there. If you go to a soccer match or maybe even an MMA match in Brazil, and you're a white person or just not from Brazil, you might want to go 20 deep. You might want to keep a lot of friends around you. Japanese fans are the most respectful, Jason says. They're all about respect. Absolutely. I would love to see UFC over there more. And I loved the ceremony of Pride, though, and that's something Ryzen's trying to bring back. They got that old iconic female announcer from Pride. That's really great. They're bringing back some of the ceremonial thing. I'm not sure if American fans have the patience for that. I do. But, yeah, I'd like to see that on Fox or, you know, some kind of American TV over here. Bring back the Ryzen. And they have some matches that have the head stomps and the kicks on the grounds and things, and some that don't, I guess. But I know they still do some of that. So it's a different situation, too. It brings something to the table. Kat says, I like that Curtis Blade is getting a huge fight with Overeem in Blade's hometown of Chicago. Is that not great for Curtis Blades? I think he dominates Reem. I think Reem's towards the end of his career, but that's awesome. And to get it in his hometown, I couldn't be happier for him. After the big win against Mark Hunt, as much as I was obviously a little biased, admittingly, I'm a huge Mark Hunt fan. I wanted to see him get the knockout, but man, Curtis Blades looked amazing in that fight, and you can't deny that he's a top heavyweight, could be in there against anybody. I expect him to get a win over Reem, and then he's probably just a shot, one fight away from getting a title shot. You have some names in the UFC in the heavyweight division, but most of them are getting older. So he definitely could make some waves. A Brazilian fan slapped Matt Brown on his way to the ring. Cap says, that doesn't mean us. Jason, that's not all Brazilians. Oh, for sure. It's not all Brazilians, and I definitely don't want to push Brazilian fans away because they've been on a lot of my broadcasts. All the Brazilians I've met in my life, very, very nice people. I don't want to get into like the whole countries and tribal thing because I think it's just absolutely stupid, and I'm sorry if I even started to go down that road, but I'll just leave it at, like I said, I like that there's a volatile place for fighters to go because I think it's great for the sport. I think it's a great environment. It's great for the fans. Cap says Brazilian fans are passionate. Nothing wrong with that. Same as Ireland and Mexican fans. Exactly. I totally agree with RS says soccer fans are the craziest. In Europe, after every big game between rival teams, there's always people fighting in the streets, stabbing, and some even die. I know in Mexico, too, my sensei in judo grew up in Mexico and then grew up in the fields over here. That's how he got so damn strong, I guess. But he said you go over the soccer matches over there, and when Mexico loses, the referee, it's a chase because they will chase the referee down to beat his ass if they lose. And it's kind of ceremonial, I guess, to douse the referee with big buckets of paint. How bad would that suck? You're just standing there and you get doused with a huge bucket of paint. And then you can't see anything, and I'm sure it's just a free-for-all. Cap says, yeah, soccer fans are super crazy. Yeah, I have a hard time getting into soccer. Maybe it's an American thing. It's just a really long sport for me without a lot of action. To me. And being in Seattle, I know the Sounders are super popular over here. They've been pretty successful. I want to go to a live game sometime, and maybe I'll come away with a different position. That's what happened to me with hockey. I don't care for hockey as much on TV. I'd rather go see a semi-pro game live. And the action is awesome in live hockey. I love the checks. I love the fights. It's one of my favorite things to do, actually, is to watch a live hockey match. We got the Everett Silvertips here, and guys are super entertaining. What's up, Seven? RS says every big team has a group of hooligans. That's the only purpose is to fight the ones from the other team. Absolutely. How many, NFL franchises do we have those issues with? And you don't blame it on all their fans. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles, people went after some of their fans for a few things, but they have a lot of great fans, a lot of passionate fans. That was shown, Super Bowl week. Of course, there were some idiots, like every city that wins the Super Bowl, here in Seattle included. When we won the Super Bowl, there was idiots burning couches in the streets. So it's a celebration. Have you heard 50 Cent's racial comments towards Conor McGregor? I seen he deleted them. I don't know why 50 Cent is doing an MMA. Cap says 50 Cent does not speak for black people. Just because 50 Cent said some dumbass doesn't mean black people feel that way. Oh, of course. Yeah. I hate stereotypes and generalizations. I know this is an MMA show, guys, and sometimes you get a little political, and Marcus Davis did a little bit today, but I kind of had this, I'm not going to call it an epiphany. I don't know what you want to call it, but I kind of came to the question, how amazing is it and how stupid are we as a species that in the 21st century, everything we've been able to accomplish, and we still separate ourselves by what piece of land on earth that we came from, and people are still separating people by what color their skin is, and this tribal mentality. It's just so stupid and childish to me. I mean, maybe it's, I live in Seattle. This is one of the most diverse places on earth. But it just doesn't occur to me when I'm talking to someone to care about any of that stuff. It's just such a non-factor to me. It just, it's just absolutely freaking ridiculous. It pisses me off that it's something that we're even still talking about. National pride is one thing. I have no issue with that. You got, Irish people that are proud, these different things. But yeah, to stereotype people over that, I agree with you, Cap. It's, I'm going to say it's so 20th century, in my opinion. Jason says it doesn't help that the media brings race into everything. Oh, man. Yeah. It's just... Yeah, and me and Marcus Davis, we started bringing up a lot of this stuff with the media about how they want us to keep fighting each other, and how he doesn't even want to label himself. I'm reluctant too to even label myself a libertarian, because then people say, "Oh, what does that say?" I don't want to label myself anything. I'm a human. I love all human beings. I want things to be fair, but we were talking, and I don't know if this is the best analogy, but I told him, how they're trying to tear us apart. And I know we're all MMA fans, and that's what brings us together in here. But this whole left versus right thing, it's done, guys. It needs to be done. It's complete BS. In my mind, it's, divide and conquer, says Jason. Yeah, it's just complete and utter bullshit. But I was trying to compare it to like sports. And I said it was like you pick offense or defense. But I would say it's even a little different than this. So let's say you take the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots and you put them against each other in the Super Bowl, but one team can only run the ball and the other team can only pass. And we sit there and fight the whole year over what's better, passing or running. I know it's not always quite that easy, but there's so many things that are common sense that people agree on. I believe most people agree on 90% of stuff. The rest of it, educate yourself. You have your right to your opinion, whatever, as long as it's an educated opinion. But, yeah, I believe it is a divide and conquer thing. But me and Marcus Davis, we were talking about some of the stuff in the schools that's going on here, and I know I have to be careful with my words. I'm treading on thin ice there, but we both think it's a great idea to get MMA and wrestling in the schools. Some of these boys, they have a lot of testosterone. I'm not going to get political, but obviously they have a lot of testosterone to run through their body. Some of them are geeks. You know what? I got picked on a lot in school. If I wasn't in MMA, I wouldn't have graduated. My sensei knew that. So he told me to stay in judo. You got to keep a 3.0. Because without judo, I wouldn't have came to school. I know a lot of kids, they probably wouldn't come to school because of wrestling. If it wasn't for wrestling, if it wasn't for some of these other things. And I hope I don't lose you guys on this. But how many of these school shootings, and I know I'm getting a broad brush out here, but how many of them are guys that were in wrestling or were in MMA? I would choose to guess none. And how about some of these wrestling coaches go out and start finding some of these kids that, are awkward and kind of picked on? I mean, talk to the students. The students know the awkward kids. The students know the kids that are suffering socially, awkward. Maybe they have a tough home life. Maybe they have some situations. And that's the wrestling coach's job, I think, to go and kind of adopt these guys and be more of a role model. Be like a father figure to these guys. Give them an outlet to let their frustration get out. RS says he agrees. What if we had jiu-jitsu in schools? I think you would have almost no school shootings. I don't know that. I can't prove that, but I want to see it. I've been looking at a campaign. I liked a lot of the things Luke Kumo talked about in our interview, talking about making a league where it was safer for fighters to fight, but we all need to figure out a way to make our schools safer. And to bring martial arts into the school, I don't see much of a loss for it, especially if you're not talking about striking arts. Yeah, you could have some torn ligaments. You could have some broken arms. You're going to have issues when you put 1,000 high schoolers into a school, 2,000, and then you got your parents on top of it. You're always going to have issues. RS says a lot of people are against that because they don't want their kids breaking each other's limbs, like they do in football all the time. But how many football players have shot their school up? As far as I know, none. I'm pretty sure it's 0. Cap says, I think we should have at minimum 20 years if you get caught illegal guns. Also, I think you should have one ex-Marine or soldier in every high school. A lot of people are talking about that. A lot of people are worried. They're talking about arming teachers. Do you think about the incompetent old teachers you had when you were in high school? Think about the old lady, 60 years old, drooling on her desk. You really want to put a gun in this lady's hands? I mean, come on. You know, I know there's arguments on both sides, you know, for protection in schools, and we want to protect our students. The answer is not to put guns in teachers' hands. I'm pretty sure of that. But why don't we actually treat the problem? We throw medicine at problems all the time. We don't ever try to get a solution. Why don't we actually try to solve something for once? Why don't we try to figure out, why are these kids upset? When boys are, you know, told that they can't roughhouse, you take away PE, you take away recess, you take away outlets for them to express themselves physically, and then you want to say that this zero tolerance thing or whatever, that this stuff isn't tied to, you know, these school shootings. It's the ultimate way for them to go out there and express themselves. They have all this frustration bottled up. You can like fighting or not like fighting, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is. You're not going to take testosterone out of 15 and 16-year-old boys. It's just genetics. It's in their DNA. They need an outlet, and not everyone can interact in team sports. I couldn't. That's why I found judo. Jason says a gunman is more likely to shoot up a gun-free zone. You don't see mass shootings at a place with a lot of guns. Can we stop putting up the signs, guys? Can we stop putting up the signs? I was at my kid's school the other day, and I seen this sign up that says this is a gun-free zone. I don't care if they have guns on the campus or not. I don't want the teachers armed, but do we have to advertise it? And how stupid can you be? RS says solution is simple. Gun control. Any other developed country had this problem and fixed it decades ago. America is just being stupid. Ban automatic and semi-automatic guns. Implement background checks. Jason said Britain did that, and now home invasions are at an all-time high. Okay, and this is what I did not want to open, is Pandora's box and the argument on politics. Let's just all agree that we need to protect our children and that our children are the most important thing out there. I think we can all agree on that. And we're not all going to agree on what the solution is, but thank you, Jason. I appreciate and I respect your guys' arguments and everything. I just don't want people to get hard feelings because of, you know, political standings one way or the other. But, you know, I think that's it. I think that's about all I got right now, unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about for the week. I want to get on some Xbox, activate my Xbox Live, and hopefully get on that UFC 3 and upload some fights on there. So give me your user tags. If you want to email me at fightswithfriends@gmail.com. Anytime you guys want to email me about subjects during the week too, feel free. It's easy. fightswithfriends@gmail.com. Twitter I don't use as much, but it's easy. It's just Fights with Friends. Luckily, nobody had taken that, so I was lucky on that. So email me your gamer tag if you want to play on Xbox, or email me whatever else you want to talk about during the week. Like I said, I check my Twitter a couple times a week, so I will see if you're on Twitter. Jason says, I game on PC. You getting UFC 3 today? Not today, Cap. I gotta talk to the wife that just walked in about that. No. My son games on PC. David's a PCer. Mike, you open the Pandora box. Now that you're in, you can't go back, says RS. Arguing over that can go on forever. I agree with you, Jason. Maybe I did open a little bit of a Pandora's box there, but it is what it is. I mean, you're gonna fight forever over gun rights and all that stuff, and I don't think anybody's gonna change anybody's mind on that. Hopefully, one thing that MMA fighters can agree on, though, is that martial arts in our school would be a good thing for our students, just as football and wrestling has been for their mindset at that point. So, Max versus Ortega, that's a great fight. Absolutely, and I don't know why I hadn't talked more about that. Yeah, I can't wait for that one either. Who do you guys think takes that? I underestimated Ortega against Frankie, and now after he knocked out Frankie in the first round, I don't know what I know. Honestly, it's hard to bet against Max, but Ortega might be like a younger version of Jose Aldo. A younger, better version. And that's scary. Jose dominated that division for 10 years. I know Max took him out later in his career, but I think Jose was past his prime. Oh, 7. Amanda is fighting Raquel Pennington. That's actually the headliner of UFC 224. I was talking about that earlier today. And that's the fight to announce on International Women's Day. It's Amanda Nunes versus Raquel Pennington. Of course, everybody wants to see Amanda Nunes versus Cyborg. Like I was saying earlier, I think Raquel Pennington, I think she's a very marketable fighter. She's kind of nerdy, girl next door kind of thing going on there. Strike the iron while it's hot. She's on a 4-fight win streak. She's got a victory over Jessica Andrade. She just retired Miesha Tate. You got to do something because you can't market it like you did that Cyborg fight. That was horrible for ratings. Cap said, agreed, RS, but let's stop talking. Okay. Jason, close call, but I got Ortega. His ground game makes his stand-up shine because he is not afraid to be taken down. Absolutely. I think Ortega has more ways to win that fight than Max does. Quite honestly. And when the odds come in for this, I expect the odds to be very, very close. And after that knockout of Frankie Edgar, with Max Holloway coming off of an injury, a bad foot injury, I see the odds coming in very close. I wouldn't be surprised to see another champion come in as a slight underdog, depending on what the books say. I don't care for that. When you it can be a little bit of a disrespect to the champion. Like when Francis Ngannou was favored over Stipe. That was absolutely ridiculous, but we all see how that turned out. Ortega's not that kind of fighter. Ortega's, he's a well-rounded guy. But, man, that's a hard fight to call. And if I had to put money on it, honestly, I might put it on Ortega. Cap says, I like Ortega and Max. I don't want to see either one lose. That's the problem there. They're such good guys. Max Holloway is one of the nicest guys out there. And he gets that following from Hawaii. We need a UFC fight in Hawaii. Their only big stadium over there is outside. And they had I think it was Bama, had a big event there. And they called it Wet and Wild because it started pouring down rain. And the fighters were fighting in the rain. That was kind of a nightmare. You think with the UFC's budget, though, they'd have some way to be able to cover that, or even just build a damn stadium. Build a stadium, build a UFC training facility there. Why not? There's a lot of tough Islanders over there. Why not expand over there and do that kind of thing, invest in their community. I think it's a great idea. Ortega will not try to go to the floor. This as happens to most BJJ guys. They get confident on their striking. I don't know. Scott says Max minus 200, Ortega plus 170. I think that's fair odds. Once the betting comes in, I think it's tighter than that. But I think that'd be fair to the champ. RS says I'm still going with Ortega. I think Ortega wins, but it's a toss-up. I'm right with you on that, Cap. Ortega has been fighting smaller competitors than Max, though. Max is a big 145er. And that's the thing. People always underestimate Max, though. And I know some of us underestimated Ortega coming in this last one, but I don't know why. I always underestimate Max, too. And then he always surprises us. Honestly, I thought he was going to lose to Jose Aldo. I thought he was going to lose the rematch. I thought he was going to lose I don't know how many times. And he just keeps getting better and better. So I don't want to underestimate him for this fight. Cap says Max and Ortega same size. Yeah, that's going to be a big difference. Or I don't know if I see Ortega Max knocking Holloway out. Now, Holloway's tall. He's long and lengthy. So, you know, he's going to have a power advantage, I would think, for sure. Holloway's got the footwork. When they go down to the ground, I think it's probably somewhat even, although Ortega's got a nasty guillotine. Holloway's got incredible jiu-jitsu himself. Peter Jones, what's up, man? Well, I love you being in here, man. Yeah, Thursday Night Fight Talk, for sure. Anything open, except for politics. We won't go back to that. But anything you guys want to talk about. I was just talking about the UFC's building UFC 224 around Amanda Nunes in Brazil. But it's not against Cyborg. It's against Raquel Pennington. So they're going to have their work cut out for them on that. They gotta market Raquel Pennington very hard, and then hope that she loses. So that's a weird predicament to be in. Good fight. Peter Jones says good fight. Good fight. Ortega and Frankie. That's gonna be a great fight. Absolutely. We're just talking about Bellator. Keep signing all these senior citizens. You got Marco Krokop just signed with Bellator. You got Chuck Waddell talking about signing with Bellator, and then Tito Ortiz. He's in, he's out. He wants to take it to the UFC. The UFC doesn't want to see 48-year-old guys in the cage, and I don't blame them. It hasn't put forward a lot of exciting fights for Bellator. Let's go to Bellator for just a second and look at what Scott Coker's kind of had to work with. I mean, I think he's done a great job of marketing over there, but they keep on trying to find, kind of rebrand a lot of recycled UFC guys. A lot of recycled UFC guys have lost over there in Bellator, for one thing, to their champions. But I think I'd stop signing the 45-year-old guys right now. I'd go to Bama. I'd go to WFA. I'd invest more in some of your marketing, some of your things to build these guys up some. They tried their own reality show. Ultimate Fighters kind of ran that into the ground. I don't know what you do to make it fresh. Peter Jones says, Raquel was tough. She has wins over Andrade and Tate. Yeah, I was just talking about that. Strike when the iron's hot. She just retired Miesha Tate, actually. And the win over Jessica Andrade, even though it was a few years back, she's a talented fighter. And I think a lot of girls could relate to Raquel Pennington. And I think you have a better chance of bringing fans over to fighting with Raquel Pennington than you do with Cyborg, and than you do maybe with Amanda Nunes. If she had the talent to match it, I hate to say it, but she could almost be like your next Ronda Rousey. If you haven't seen her, she was very entertaining on The Ultimate Fighter, and she's a highly marketable fighter. For sure. RS, Ryan Bader is not recycled. He is the one doing the recycling. Oh, my gosh. Just for you, RS, I'm going to go and get UFC 3, and I'm going to get Ryan Bader and watch him get decimated by every guy in the light heavyweight division. No, I'm just joking. Those old fighters must bring in the ratings. They do, but how many times can we see it before people catch on? That's the thing. I thought it was going to be super high ratings. Roy Nelson, in his last fight against Meathead, and even though Meathead won, it wasn't great with the ratings. People are starting to catch on to the gimmick a little bit, especially the big fans, and you can't lose your hardcore fans. Yes, you have to bring along the casuals, but you lose your hardcore fans, and you're completely dead. You've done these big gimmick fights, Dada 5000 against Kimbo, known as one of the worst main events ever now. You bring back an old Hoist Gracie to fight Ken Shamrock when they're almost 50. It's just gimmicky, and hardcore fight fans know it. Scott won't sign them if there wasn't money in it. Wouldn't sign them if there wasn't money in it. And you know what, Jason? I think there's interest in that fight. I was a little pissed at Tito for, trying to get that fight into the UFC. If you actually do bag that fight, and say after everything Scott Coker did for you coming back, why do you not give him that fight? And why do you talk bad about the only organization that's going to sign that fight? I mean, you think the UFC is going to put together that fight with Chuck Liddell at 48 years old? You got brain damage, and you shouldn't be getting in the cage to begin with. RS says, you guys are forgetting Bellator has a lot of young prospects. Gallagher, McKee, Pico. They do. Aaron Pico, they brought along very well. Of course, he had the one loss in his debut, but they've done a good job with him since then. Yeah, market, recruit these Olympic guys, recruit the Russians, man. Marcus Davis was talking about, not only about Khabib, but he was talking about when they were on The Ultimate Fighter. If you didn't hear that interview, somebody asked him who the strongest grappler was ever. I think it was you, Jason, the strongest grappler he'd ever grappled against. And he said it was a Russian guy. He didn't even mention his name. He was on The Ultimate Fighter. And he said nobody could take this guy down. And not only could they not take him down, he was so good that his only goal became to touch the guy's knee. And he couldn't even do that. And he said Rich Franklin was, the coach on that season. He says Rich Franklin was getting so frustrated because this guy was 155 and Franklin was a 185er at the time. And Franklin could not do anything to this guy. This guy was submitting Rich Franklin continuously, just dominating everyone. And he said that's because, Marcus Davis said, he took the guy and he says, I want to pay you for private wrestling lessons. So the guy says, okay, and they're talking privately. He says, when did you start wrestling? And he said, from birth. And he's like, I don't think you understand. I think there's a translation issue here. He says, I asked you, when did you start wrestling? He says, again, from birth. So he says, I'll tell you what I mean by that. He said, I was born in the hospital. They picked me up by the leg. And the doctors looked at me, and they brung in some professionals, some scouts from the government. And when he was born, they said, he's going to be a wrestler. And they told his mom. And that was his life. They decided when he was born, for whatever reason, his muscular structure and everything, that he was going to be a wrestler. And that's why those guys are so good. It's incredible. But he said that those guys, that he took that guy, a 155er, and this is when Marcus Davis said he was, walking around 205. He said, the guy told him, I'm going to get on my back, and you jump on and get me in full mount, and we'll start from full mount, see if there's anything you can do to me. He said he was able to submit him from that this guy was able to get out and submit him from that position. He was able to stand up easily. Incredible wrestling level. So go recruit over there. Comedic Genius CM Punk 3-weight belt. Oh, Jesus. All right, now we're getting silly. Maybe we're running out of things to talk about. But or else Phil Davis couldn't lay a finger on him. Vessel just got demolished. What was the big fight that was just announced, though? Over in Bellator. There was a big fight that was just announced, and now I can't think of it. Help me out here, Cap. It's Paul Daly. Paul Daly just signed to fight somebody big. It might have been Rory McDonald. That's the fight everybody wants to see. Ryan Bader versus King Mo. Or it says the Crow Cop Roy. Crow Cop Roy, I'll watch it. It's an interesting fight. Crow Cop's not going to try to take him down. He's going to try to stand with him. His foot movement, he's getting older, just like Roy is. And honestly, Roy probably takes him down. But Roy's entertaining on the ground. His ground and pound's great. He likes to get people in that crucifix. He's not stagnant on the ground. So I don't mind watching a fight at all where Roy takes guys down to the ground, because he's an entertaining fighter standing and on the ground. Gegard Mousasi versus Carvalho. There you go. That's a great fight. Yes, Paul Daly and John Fitch. Yeah, I seen they signed John. Is anybody really excited about seeing John Fitch fight anywhere, though? I mean, I hate to be disrespectful to fighters, but this is entertainment. This is entertainment, kind of like Ben Askren. John Fitch, he doesn't finish fights. And I'm going to finish on this for the day. Like I've said before, MMA is kind of like sex. If you don't finish, what's the point? And I'm going to go ahead and mic drop on that, and I will see you guys on Saturday.